This video is going to show you some of the masonry work done by Joey Dye from Joey Dye Masonry. I hired Joey back in early March of 2017. The agreement was Joey was going to brick my garage. He was going to put down my driveway and also do a 175-foot wall behind my house. And then also going to do the cinder block work and the brick work on the two entrance posts that you see at the end of my driveway. To date, I have paid Joey Dye over $42,000. All the work, the garage, the wall, and the two entrance posts were supposed to have been finished back in June. And here we are, it's not finished. This video will show you a lot of the imperfections and the sloppy work done by Joey Dye. This garage is probably 3,800 square feet. And they would come out and work for a few hours and then leave and then come back a day or so later using a completely different batch of mortar and have someone else run the sand and the mixer and not know the correct combination to have the right color of mortar. But you can see the mortar. This is the color that we were shooting for on the entire property, because that's about the color that we have on our house. You can't see up close, but that was the color we were shooting for. So this color was here fine, but when someone else would have to come back and do it that wasn't familiar with the sand and mortar mix ratio, this is what we would get. So it would go from the color I wanted, which is in there, so as you can see how different that color mortar is. I'm not really sure how well this is going to show up because of the glare of the sunlight. But up here on these shingles here, I'm not sure if you can see it. I can see it through the camera lens. But when this brick was put down right here, Joey Dye Masonry should have put felt or plastic or something on top of these shingles to keep mortar from getting on those shingles. Joey Dye Masonry did not do that. So what I'm left with are a bunch of ruined shingles right in here with nothing but mortar on top of them. Also, where this brick meets these shingles, I purchased angle iron to go on top of here, like most masons do use. They'll put a piece of angle iron here to keep the brick from falling in on the shingles over time. That angle iron was not even put here. So I was able to climb up on a ladder on this gable that I was showing you to let you see the mortar that was left on top of my shingles. This is on the front part of the gable, and you can see where they have cut those brick and they aren't even at the correct angle, and they have just used mortar in between the actual shingles and the brick. There should be a piece of angle iron right there. And I'm not for sure if this will show up or not, but this brick starts having a dip right in here. And I may have to take a picture of this and then use some kind of program to show you straight lines of how that dips down once it gets closer up in here. This will show you just some more of the sloppiness. There's mortar in our windows. This stuff is almost impossible to remove. There's another window, even more mortar, just on the... That up there is not dirt, that's mortar. Here's the back side of my garage that was supposed to have been finished back in June. It's already been paid for. And as you can see, this part here has been finished, but back here has not even been touched. And here are the edges of my driveway during the day. If you see our other videos, you can see the driveway at night. But every time that no one's working here and it rains, it washes out part of the under gravel and the under sand here, so the edges are starting to actually fall apart. You can see how the spaces here where it gets wet, all that wants to just push off of there. And it's like this on both sides all the way down. Here's another side of the driveway where you can see no one showing up to do the edges. That everything under this, once it gets water on it, it starts washing out. So everything along in here is basically just sitting on these ridges, or sitting on these where the water's washed it out. And some of these pavers here, they'll fall right down in. You can see where they're starting to separate from the others. Here's more parts of the edge of the driveway. You can see where the water, no edges were put up like promised. So you can see this big gully right here. The water has washed that away. So that gully, if it starts back in here over time, we're just going to have a huge dip right there. Here it started, and the more it rains, the more this is going to separate. This is another part of my driveway towards the edges. You can see some of these pavers have completely went into the actual sand itself just because of the hard rain. Here's some more of the sloppiness by Joey Dye from Joey Dye Masonry. Each one of these bags of mortar cost me around $10 or $11. And right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 bags of mortar that have been sitting here for several months that are just now completely hard. These bags are rock solid. It's been sitting out here wasting away. So there's $90 or $100 worth of wasted mortar sitting there. There's also more bags up here that I will show you that are starting to ruin. And then there's more bags of mortar down at the end of my driveway towards my entrance post that have been sitting there for months. And here are probably 10 or 15 more bags of mortar sitting down near my entrance posts. These bags have sit here for several months. These bags are already starting to get hard. A couple of months ago I had a whole pallet of mortar dropped off. Joey Dye let those bags sit out in the rain and the whole entire pallet was ruined. Each bag is again $10 or $11, so we've got 10 bags that were up there that I just showed you, and then there's 10 or 15 here that are now starting to ruin, plus the pallet that was ruined. Here's some more mortar that's just being left out in the rain. This mortar here is sitting completely, just laying here on top of dirt, wet dirt. These bags, you can tell just from the water where it's hit the ink, those bags are starting to just harden up. All these bags are ruined. So in total, from the one pallet from several months ago that Joey Dye ruined, that's I think 40 bags of that. And what I just showed you was probably, in the 3 other places, we're talking about probably 30 more bags. So about 70 bags of mortar at $10 or $11 a bag. You're looking at $700 or $800 just in wasted mortar that I've paid for because nobody's been here to actually do the work. This is the back side of the cinder block brick wall that's 175 feet. I paid for the caps to be put on here as well. You've still got to put cinder block here and then come up and make a nice ledge with cinder block and brick, patio brick on top. And this has been left uncovered for 2 months. So anytime it's rained, water has went down in these cavities of this wall. So now there's water accumulating down in here inside the actual wall with nowhere to escape, which means that in the wintertime when it does freeze, this wall will probably crack. And any mason that you'll talk to will tell you this has to be covered up with at least some wood or a tarp or something. Here's some more of the brickwork done by Joey Dye Masonry. As you can see, a lot of this brick hasn't even been cleaned yet. It's left with just, this is brand new brick, probably put down 2 months ago. Just all kinds of mortar. And here's some more work with just mortar left on the bricks. It hasn't even been cleaned yet. Not very clean work. You can see where it's just been. You can see here on the mortar, right in here, it's a really light yellowish color, and then it goes up to the darker beige color. So it goes decent color here, and then from there down, that's where they would have started. Worked a few days, quit, didn't come back for a couple more days, and had somebody else new on the mixer and somebody else putting sand in the mortar. They didn't have the right consistency of the person that did it before. They would do this and then come back and have someone else do this, and it was two completely different colors. This is more parts of the wall where you can see the color discrepancies. Now it goes from a yellowish color mortar up here to a darker color, and it gets darker as it goes up. This is part on the 175-foot wall that I paid for. They would come out and work a few hours and then leave and not show back up for a couple of days and start a new batch of mortar when they showed up. So they would come out and do a few feet. And this is the color of the mortar they would start with. It's kind of an orangey-ish color, but the color it's supposed to be is kind of a beige color, which is what we have up here. But you can you can see how it goes from a darker color up top, and then it goes down to a really light orange color of mortar towards the bottom. The whole wall hasn't been cleaned. I was promised and I paid for it to be cleaned. There's just mortar all over the walls. And again, you can see here where it goes. This here is about the color we were shooting for. And they would work and stop and come back the next week. And then they would start a new run, and it would just be a darker orange color. So it goes, the whole wall is just lighter color mortar, darker color mortar. Instead of finishing the whole section out. As you can see here, this is just a dark color, and it's very sloppy. This next part deals with the terminology in masonry work. If you're not familiar with it, anything running left to right is what's called a bed joint. Up and down is called a head joint. In a cinder block wall or a brick wall, all those joints need to be up and down from each other. If you're standing back looking at it and start at the top and then go to the bottom, all these joints should be on top of each other. This just shows you some of the sloppiness of the work by Joey Dye Masonry. What I've done is taken a straight edge. You can see it starts down there at the bottom. And you can see some of these joints aren't even on top of each other. Like this joint here should be up against this straight edge because this joint here is there. So you can see this joint here, this next joint up here is that. So it should be, in a perfect world, this joint that's on top, this joint here, you should have a joint right here, not here. And it goes consistently on the wall, on all the brickwork. Hardly any of these joints are on top of each other. It's just, some parts it's almost a zigzag. What we did was this is a 175-foot wall, approximately 8 to 9 feet tall. And what we did was every 28 feet we would put a post, one of these columns here, all the way to the back side of my house. And they would come out and do probably 2 feet up and then quit and show back up a few days later. So I don't know if they've done the leads here, but this piece of wood is in here permanently. Like it hasn't even been covered up. That's what you see. This wall probably cost me $20,000. And you just see a piece of untreated wood there, which is not even, I mean, that's in there permanently. That's been screwed in there with Tapcon bits, concrete bits, and it's still left there. And just the other, just the messiness of the mortar. It gets all over the brick. So the wall is 175 feet, and then it comes down and connects with my garage. And down here on the garage again, in the corners, instead of removing this piece of wood as they went, this piece of treated wood is now in here permanently. It's been screwed into the garage with Tapcon concrete bits. And this is what you see. Instead of having a nice clean corner, you see a piece of untreated wood which exposed to the weather. This is going to rot out, and I don't know how long it'll take to rot out, but it's going to rot out. This piece of wood has to come out of here. As you can see, even from 15 to 20 feet back, you can still see a piece of wood in the corner. This next part may be confusing, but what we did was on this wall, as I said before, it's a 175 feet, and what we did about every 30 feet, 28 or 30 feet or so, I wanted to break it up with one of these piers. These piers are 4 feet wide, so we've got 6 piers total within a 175 foot span. What we did was we ran 175 foot of cinder block first, and then we put brick on the outside of the cinder block. Where it gets confusing, and maybe not everybody can understand, but obviously behind this brick we have a cinder block wall. Okay, what I explained to Joey Dye, who's supposed to be the professional mason, is what we should do is run 175 foot of block, and then if we wanted to do these piers, what we could do is use 4-inch block on the outside and then brick up to that. That would save me a lot of brickwork, because brickwork obviously costs more than block work if you break it down per the square foot, because brick and laying brick costs more than it does to lay block. But of course, Joey Dye the Masonry gets paid more if he lays more brick than he does block. So what Joey Dye did was, on each pier, instead of having cinder block behind here to save money for myself, what he did was he ran brick all the way through, and then put this brick is covering up brick under it. So each one of these brick cost me about $1 to lay, or $1 to buy and lay total. And I think there's close to 200 brick per pier, and we got 6 piers, so I overspent $1,200 just in brick work for Joey Dye to do that. But of course he's being paid by the brick, so why wouldn't he do that? This is out towards the 4-lane, and this will just show you some of the sloppiness of the concrete work, or the mortar work for the entrance post that I have, where I'm going to put gates. I will have gates go from here to here. You can see just some of the sloppiness of the work itself. This is the other side of the driveway entrance posts. You can see the sloppiness of the joint lines. And over here, I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but we've got corner posts on every one of these driveway entrances. We have 4 of them. We have 2 here and then 2 on each other side. I'm not sure how this shows up, but you can see the block here is spaced okay, but once it goes up top, it starts to widen out. As you can see, this is wider up here than it is down here. This wasn't even put in level. This post here, I think, is relatively level, but you can still see how far some of this block here, how much it sticks out like that from the, just how it goes. And that's probably ½ an inch, and this goes to 1/4 inch, and here's another 1/4 inch. And here's the back side of one of the entrance posts. You can just see how sloppy this work is.